Cornelia Corrie Arnolda Johanna Ten Boom was a Dutch evangelist and resistance fighter against the Nazis during World War II. With her family, she sheltered Jewish refugees. Because of this, she was arrested and transported to Ravensbrück concentration camp. She ended up surviving her time at Ravensbrück concentration camp and began being a witness to Christ all over the world. In this episode, we will look into the testimony of Corrie Ten Boom. Corrie worked for her father's watch store in Haarlem in the Netherlands. The family was hospitable and Christ-like. At the beginning of World War II, they began resisting the forces of the Germans. The Ten Boom family made no distinction between religion, skin color, or anything else. They saved more than 800 people throughout their life in the Netherlands. Corrie and her family were not afraid of the consequences of hiding Jews in their home. In February of 1944, they were caught by the Germans and immediately imprisoned, and Corrie's father died there shortly after his arrest. Corrie and her sister Betsy were eventually transported to the Ravensbrück concentration camp. Ravensbrück was built specifically for women by the feared SS leader Heinrich Himmler. This camp was built on Himmler's property and was intended for approximately 6,000 female prisoners. Upon entering the camp, it seemed as if the gates of hell had opened. Despite all the misery in the camp, the sisters did not lose their faith in God. Even amidst their great trials and tribulations at the concentration camp, they continued to trust in Him. Philippians 4:12-13. I know how to be abased, and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I have learned both to be full and to grow hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Even though it was strictly prohibited by the Nazis, every evening Corrie and Betsy did a Bible study in the barracks. There were a lot of vermin in the barracks, and when Corrie complained about the presence of lice, her sister Betsy replied, "You must thank God for everything, even for the lice." Later it turned out that the guards kept their distance from the girls because of the lice. This gave Corrie and Betsy the opportunity to hold Bible studies with others in their barracks. The Bible study gave the women hope, peace, and light within their dark situation. Unfortunately, Betsy became ill and died under inhumane conditions in the camp in late 1944. Corrie was released from the camp due to a clerical error, and only a short time later the women she lived with in the barracks were killed in the gas chamber. After the war, Corrie traveled the world, except to Germany, with Christ's message of forgiveness. She did not feel comfortable going to Germany, but was eventually put to the test. It seemed that it was easier to talk about forgiveness rather than to follow up with the actions herself. As she was traveling around, she received an invitation to speak at a church in Germany. Suddenly, there they were, face to face, Corrie Ten Boom and the camp guardian. Corrie had just given a speech on the topic of forgiveness, and as the people were leaving, the guard came forward. Corrie noticed who this man was, and she realized he was partially responsible for the death of her sister. He extended his hand towards her and said, "What a beautiful message, Fräulein." Corrie froze. He said, "I became a Christian after the war. Your message about forgiveness touched me very much. You told about the camp Ravensbrück. I was a camp guard there. I have always wanted to ask forgiveness from someone personally, so I ask you, will you forgive me? It feels like my blood is freezing. There is suddenly a man standing before me, co-responsible for the slow, horrible death of my dear Betsy, and he dares ask me for forgiveness? All those beautiful sermons about forgiveness, but now I have to forgive myself, and I can't." The man held out his hand to Corrie, but she wouldn't take it. I pray softly to Jesus, "I don't want this. You have to help me." Then I realize forgiveness is not an emotion, it is an act of the will. The feeling is not there, but I can move my hand. Almost mechanically, I place my hand in his, and then something extraordinary happens. I suddenly feel a warm wave through my body, from my shoulder, through my arm, to our hands. I have to cry. I forgive you, brother, with all my heart. There we stood, the camp guard and the prisoner. For a long time we held hands. Never before have I experienced the love of God so deeply. And so, I myself was set free. Nowadays, the house of the Ten Boom family can be visited in Haarlem in the Netherlands. This legacy allows us to relive their history and hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. Corrie Ten Boom's testimony is proof of God's faithfulness and the power of forgiveness. Ephesians 4:31-32. Let all bitterness, wrath, anger, clamor, and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God in Christ forgave you.